All right, now that we've got the text sort of displaying, let's go and do some coding here. Just make sure you've saved. And so I'm just going to go back to the player controller because that's where our count is. Now, a couple things we need to do, even before we worry about the coding here. I have to come right up to the top. And if you're ever using the UI, you need to include that in your sort of your declarations at the top here. So just like before we declared that we're using the Unity engine, we're using this system.collections, we also have to say that we're using the UI system. Okay, so make sure you put that in. Now we also need to sort of declare a variable for the text. Okay, so we're going to drag this text into it, sort of the game object of the text, into this variable, and we need to tell it's going to be a text variable, and we'll just call it count text. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do here is let's sort of think about what we're doing. So we've said that the count is 0, so we want the computer to display that. So what I'm going to do is set the count text to its text 2, and it's going to be a string. So I'm going to put that into a bracket. Okay, sorry, into a quotations, and hopefully this keyboard. Okay, it's doing French. 1 second here. Okay, that's better. There we go. So start with a quotation. So this is actually what's going to be printed out. It's going to print out count. I'm going to put a space in here because we want a little bit of spacing, and then end the bracket, plus it's going to set this count value. Okay. So whatever the value of count is, in the case at the start, is going to be 0. And I'm going to put that, and I have to do what's called toString. And the thing is that I can't just display a float or an integer directly into a string. I have to make it into a string. Again, when we do some Python, this will start to make a little bit more sense and why we have to do it. We can't sort of mix and match data types, basically. All right. Now, that's kind of fine. Okay. At the start of the game, it's going to be set to 0. So let's just see if that works. Go back to Unity. Okay, so it still says count text here, but once I hit play, it still says count text, which is not what it's. Oh, and of course the reason is, forgot again. I got to go back to my player, and in my script here. Okay, we seem to have. Did I not save that? Let me just go back. Did seem to save it. Save. Text, count text, Unity engine. There's always sometimes little errors here. I didn't see any errors in Unity. Let's just go back. So it's saying count text, player controller. I just have the speed here. For some reason, it's not updating the script. Just give me 1 second. All right, I found my little error here. Of course, this needs to be public because I need to be able to access it. So that was kind of a silly mistake on my part. Okay, so now when I go into Unity, I should be able to see when I click on my player, okay, there's the count text there. So what I can do is just drag the count text into that box, just like we did before. And now when I hit play, there's the count, okay, and it's saying 0. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't update, okay? I'm going to be forever stuck at 0. So what I have to do is change the code. Now, what I could do, and I'll do this, I'm just going to copy this piece of text here, the script, and put it here, and see if it works. So I hit play, save it, hit play, and let's see now. 1. Perfect. It's adding up. Excellent. So it seems to be working. Okay. So just let me go back and talk a little bit about that. So what I've done is I set the count text to count. Okay. And then set the, the value here to be whatever count is, which is 0 at the start. And then each time that we collide with something, I'm going to have to update my count value. okay, my string. So I redo it, sort of rewrite it basically each time. Now that's fine, but what we've got here is 2 lines of code that are identical. And it's not the end of the world, but you know, there's sort of good coding practices. And any time that you've got duplicates of the code, you often try to look for ways, could you minimize that? Could you prevent that? Because if I want to make a change here to the count, then I have to come down here and make a change as well. So I didn't want it to call it count. I want to say, you know, number collected or something. I'd have to change the code twice, and that can get confusing, especially if it's more than twice. I might forget, and then I've got this weird error popping up. So what we're going to actually do is create a new function. So I'm going to call it void, and well, it's going to be a void one, which again we'll talk a little bit later, but it doesn't return any values. Set count text, and I'm going to set that count text. Okay, so I'm going to create this function called set count text, and it's going to have that line of code in it. So what I did is created my own function called set count text, which does this text thing. So instead of running it separately here, I'm going to run that set count text function there, and I'll just copy it here. So it should do the same thing. So what it's going to do is it's going to run start and says, okay, yes, do this, do this. Oh, run the set count text function. The code will jump down to here, run this, and then go back up and finish the start function. Same thing when it running this 2D, you know, the trigger enter, on trigger enter, it will do this and then says, oh, run the set count text function. Okay, jump down here and run this function. So let's just double check it all works. Okay, we didn't really make any substantial changes. One thing I'm going to do is get rid of the, where did I still have it? I thought I still had a debug log there. Update, fixed it. Oh, I guess I don't. Just thought I had it there. Okay, no problems. Saved it already. Go back, hit play. Okay, and let's just see, count is 0, looks good. And it's adding up. Perfect. So now what we want to do is we want to have it so that once the count reaches, say 12 in my case, okay, might be different in your game if you've got different ones, we want it to say that you win. So let's see what we can do there. So the next thing we want to do is put the win text in. Okay, so we've got our canvas with our count text. We want to add another text in, so UI text, and it should place it in there. And let's give it a name right away, call it the win text. Okay, and just like before, we need to set some parameters. So at the moment, new text, let's see, where is it here? So we're going to set this one in the center here. So I'm going to come up, make sure it's in the center, okay, which it already is. And I can't quite see it, so I'm just going to, might just be because, oh, we're in the play mode too, that doesn't help. Let's see, there's count text. Let's click on it. Whoops. Sorry, I was in the play mode. When you're in the play mode, I mentioned things don't show up. So try this again. UI, text, win text. Okay, that's better. Now I can see the new text there. All right, so it's called win text. Click on it again, and we want it to display sort of about roughly in the center here. So the moment I've got it way down here, so win text. You can see it sort of hiding down there. So let's see, Alt, sorry, what is this again? Shift and Alt. Make sure it's centered, so there we can see it there. Now you notice it's not actually centered. You can actually change it by changing the alignment there. Okay, so that's centered. I probably want it moved up a bit. So again, on the Y, somewhere around there perhaps. Let's make it about the same yellow as before. I could be really precise and use the exact same number. I'm going to do something looks pretty close to it, close enough. And I'm going to increase the font there too. Okay, so new text. If you ever find that it disappears, sometimes you actually have to change the size of this box. So if you want it even bigger, you might have to change that width. That's why, if you notice, if I go a little bit beyond, it just disappears. Okay, it doesn't look like I can get any bigger than say 26 where I was. And that's mostly just because this box is too small to show it up. So if you want it bigger, you just have to increase the size there of that as well. But that's good enough. All right. And let's just, instead of win new text there, let's just make sure, whoops, that we identify this as win text as well. Okay. And so it's on there. Now, just like before, we got to go into our script to deal with the, displaying our you win situation. So doing this it's not too difficult. It's very similar to what we did before in the fact that we have to access this text block. So this is going to be our win text. Okay. So just create another variable called public text, win text. And at the start, we basically want this to be blank. Okay. We don't want it to show anything. So we have to define that. So at the start, the win text dot text, so whatever the text is in that win text is going to be, we call it empty string. Okay, so it's basically blank. There's nothing in there. All right. Now we only want it to display when that, once it's greater than 12 in my case, 12 or greater. Okay, yours might be different if you put a different number in there. So what I'm going to do is right after it runs the set count text, I'm going to get it to check this count. So I'm going to put in here if, okay, and then this is in a bracket, if the count, okay, if the count is now greater than or equal to, okay, we have to do it like that, is equal to 12 and the bracket. Now I'm going to put in curly braces here. So if the count is greater than or equal to 12, what it's going to say is it's going to take that win text and the text of it, instead of being blank as it was, we'll put in, and you can put whatever your favorite message you want in there, you win. Okay, there. So that's all we should have to do. It should, oops, see I've got an error there. The reason is I'm missing this bracket, which I don't need. Let's just get rid of that. Okay, so that should do it. Okay, so winText.text is equal to you win. Let's see if this works. So save it, as always. Go back to Unity. I'm going to make this, I'm going to maximize on play. This is going to be my big, oh, before I do that though, make sure on your player you drag in your win text. There we go. I always forget to do that. All right, so now I'm going to click this to maximize on play. So it's going to take up my whole screen so you and I can enjoy this lovely game. Okay, good. Okay, counting is working. Good. Almost there. Oh, you win. Now, to me, that's a little bit small there. And maybe I would bring it down a bit. Just sort of seeing where the player is there. A few little things I could do to make it a little bit better. But the thing is, it works. Okay? So you've got a working game. Now, the only issue is that it's stuck in Unity. So if you wanted someone to play this at the moment, you'd have to say, oh, download Unity. Okay, here, upload my project. What we can do, though, is build it for a variety of platforms. And so we're just going to build it for the PC. Building it for other platforms, it can be a little bit more difficult, but it's not impossible. But we'll just build it for the PC here. So we'll have to wait for the next video to do that, but it'll just be a short and sweet one. And then you'll have a game that you can have your friends play or your family play or whomever you want. All right, so save your game and we'll see you in the last video.